Hey y'all, so today I am going to be doing a kind of video that I actually quite enjoy doing. I'm revisiting some products that I've reviewed recently and basically updating my reviews. I think this is best practices for someone who reviews anything, but especially makeup, because products can like grow on you over time. Some products can fall out of favor over time. There's always some nuance that develops in the wake of the review. And so this is like a catch-all video to report back on those nuances. Today, I'm specifically focusing on luxury makeup because over the past maybe 3 months, there have been a number of pieces of luxury makeup that have come into my life in one way or another. And this makeup, I'm particularly keen to report back to you about the nuances of syntax because it's so expensive. And so I feel like the stakes are kind of high with a review. If I'm like, this eyeshadow palette's amazing, but it's $150, I definitely want to come back in a couple of months and be like, I still think it's amazing, but here's some more information. Or, I don't think it's amazing anymore. Although I don't think that's going on with any eyeshadow palettes today. You get it. You get what I'm doing. I can move on. If this is your first time to my channel, then welcome. I'm so glad you're here. I hope you love revisited reviews of luxury makeup. My name is Hannah, and I enjoy beautiful things so much so that I'm here on YouTube speaking about them on an almost daily basis these days. I try not to spend too much money. I try not to buy too much stuff. I try not to talk about beautiful stuff in a way that encourages overspending. But I am here celebrating the joy that beautiful things can bring to our lives. And if that sounds good to you, I hope you will subscribe. Now, let's go ahead and get into the meat of this video. So here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna talk about the pieces of... Okay, first up, let's look at the pieces of makeup that I purchased from Violet Grey for self-sponsored review. Violet Grey is a very alluring luxury makeup website. I'd never bought anything from them before, and I dedicated some of my channel's budget for... A couple months ago, I dedicated... So first up, I feel like this is one of the ones that has been of the greatest interest to you. It's the Rouge Powder Lip Palette. I loved this when I first started testing it out, and I gave it a really good review. I definitely still like it. Not very many of my feelings have changed. I will say the one thing that I didn't really anticipate when I filmed that review, or that I didn't really know, is that it's hard to store it with my other lip products because it's shaped like a palette. All of my other lip products are like, glosses and lipsticks, and I store them standing up in like a little acrylic containers, and there's just no way to clearly there's no way to put this in there or put this with them. And so it's sort of weird. It's like not with them. So when I go to reach for a lip product, I don't usually really see it. And so I'm like, where do I put it? Do I put it with my palettes? That doesn't make sense. Its storage has posed a little bit of a problem. Now, of course, it's not as though I mind having it just sitting around, or I don't mind having it with eyeshadows or something. It's just a matter of use. I want it to be there in front of my face when I'm looking for a lip product so that I'll remember to wear it because I like it so much. So it's like one little addendum to the review. The other thing that I'll say about it is that I feel like some of these reds are maybe cooler toned than I realized. The bright one and the sort of burgundy one. The ones that I always wear when I reach for it are these two middle ones. I think that this very, very bright red, I actually haven't ended up loving wearing it as much as I thought I would because it pulls kind of cool on me. It ends up looking very pinky. This color though is absolutely stunning, and I love the formula as much as I ever did. And of course, I'll link the initial review of this below, so if you want to know why I love the formula, what I have to say about the formula, you can click through and watch that video and find all of that out. Let's talk about Baby Cheeks. This one's pretty quick and easy. It's exactly what I thought it was gonna be. So everything I said in the first review, the color is great, very neutral, just like a thoughtless, effortless, don't have to worry about it, goes with everything for me. It's not the most exciting color in the world. I wish it were a little bit more exciting. I wish it were more like putty color, because putty colored blush is my favorite thing. As it is, it's perfectly fine. I never stop using it. You know what I mean? Like I never stop reaching for it. I'm always just like throwing it on my face to complement looks. It's so pleasurable and creamy to apply, blends so easily, is very versatile. And I think I said this in the initial review and I still feel this way. I wouldn't buy this with my own money unless it was like my only blush. If I was still out here like I used to be, like I was 6 or 7 years ago, just buying one blush, using it up, and then buying another blush, then I would be shelling out the coin for a luxury blush like this, especially because it's so versatile, so pleasurable to use. But as it is for me, I have like a whole blush collection. And so if I were going to spend some of my personal budget on blush, I wouldn't be buying a $50 blush from Westman Atelier. Also, this is kind of a small thing, but I get confused about which side is up with this because the cap, it feels like it's heavy, but I don't think it's the cap. I think it's that the top, it's top heavy. When it's closed and you hold it, it feels like this is the bottom. And so I'm often putting it like that. And then when I look down at it, I see the sticker staring up at me and it's like, what? I feel like it's always upside down and I don't know why. And in this very moment, I'm kind of figuring out what it is. It's because it's extremely top heavy because the entire, like there's this whole big component, but all the makeup and the metal is like up here at the top. It actually does bother me a little bit in that totally shallow way. Things that, you know, they bother you, but they're like not real problems, not even beginning to be real problems. But in a review like this where we're parsing every detail, I'm telling you, it bothers me a little bit that for something so expensive and in theory so elegant, it feels like it doesn't have a right way up. Sort of. Maybe I just need to pay more attention. Okay, this is embarrassing. This is the third thing from Violet Grey, the Surratt Smoky Eye Baton. It was such an interesting experience applying it. It was a roller coaster. There were pros, there were cons. I thought it was gonna be terrible, and then I thought it looked amazing, and then I thought it looked awful, and then I thought it looked amazing. It was very divisive in the comments too. Some of you were like, no, 1,000 times no. And some of you literally were like, that's the best eye look you've ever had on. It's my favorite thing I've ever seen you do. I can't wait. I need to buy that right away and replicate this look. Like it was a whole thing. Here's what happened after the review. I lost it and I couldn't find it for such a long time. I even looked for it. I think I lost it because it's so tiny, especially for something so expensive. It's just like a nothing, just like a feather on the wind. At least that's how it behaved in here. It got swept away like a feather in the wind. I couldn't find it forever. Then I found it and I never brought myself to use it again because I was worried that it wouldn't go well. And in my defense, I've been reviewing a lot of things lately and it's almost like every time I do my makeup, I have to take the opportunity to apply to my face one of the things I'm trying to review. That's what I've been doing, especially most recently, like in the past 6 weeks. So it has suffered a fate of negligence. And so I can't actually update my review on this, except to say that it misplaced itself because it's so measly. And to give you the sort of curious update, which is that in spite of it having been so interesting and incendiary and such an original and specific look that it created when I used it, I've just been wary. I like haven't wanted to use it again. So if you saw that video and you saw me being like, oh my gosh, this is so interesting, I can't wait to get to know this product better, that's what I thought at the time. And then the reality of my actions after it was lost, maybe if it hadn't been lost for so long, it would have been different, but it was lost. And then when I found it again, since I found it again, every time I almost use it, which has just been a couple times, I've been like, maybe not today. Like, let's wait for another day when I feel, I don't know what I'm waiting for. Feel like I have more time or the stakes aren't as high. I'm not going to be filming. I don't know what it is I'm waiting for. But the fact that I'm like waiting for something before I use it again, I guess that is like an updated review. It's not good. It's not good, Troy. Okay, so that's Violet Grey. Let's talk about Lisa Eldridge. 3 Lisa Eldridge products have been featured on my channel recently. The foundation, the lip liner, which I had never tried, and the liquid Lyrex eyeshadow. The foundation, I did a whole review of the foundation, and the lip liner review is like hidden inside the foundation review. I will link that below. It's a very long, very thorough deep dive review of that foundation. And the foundation has since been decluttered. I'm going to take it home and give it away to one of my family members because there are good things about it, but it's just not for me. And I actually theorized in that review that that's probably what I would do, and that is indeed what I've done. I did a ruthless declutter recently, and almost none of my base products made it through. The only things that made it through are the things that I like really, really love and I'm using all the time. And the Lisa Eldridge, it was a double whammy against it because the shade match wasn't ideal. And then the texture, it was very lightly pigmented and it didn't really set on me, especially because I tend to use like dewy products underneath my base products. It just wasn't a good fit. So I decided not to keep it around. Curiously, I also decluttered the lip pencil because I didn't like the color at all. I loved the longevity, the formula, the way it blended, the way it gave me like a sturdy, blurred lip line, but it was just so pink. And I was expecting it to be a little bit browner, a little bit earthier. I'm glad I tested it for a review because I can report to you that Lisa Eldridge makes a really good lip pencil. It's a formula that I really, really like. But I'm just not in the business of keeping things even if the formula is great, if it's a color that I know that I'm not going to enjoy using. So it's brand new. I figured why not give it away to a friend who's going to love it. The Liquid Lurex, however, it's kind of grown on me because of having edited the review. Because I saw myself putting it on. I don't like liquid eyeshadows. I didn't like the color, right? I talked about that in the review, but it did just look kind of fierce after it was applied. I also kind of liked it when it was just a wash and it looked really, really shiny and wet. That initial application with my finger was so thin that it didn't look all that orange. And every time I edited that and like saw the footage back, every time I went over that part of the footage, I was like, I'm gonna start wearing that in a thin layer just all over my lids all the time. I also love the way that it looked underneath my eyes, almost like little tears were sparkling or glitter spangling from underneath my lower lashes. It's just a super pretty product. And this is my most recent review. I think it's the thing here that I've reviewed the most recently. So not much time has passed, but the update that I have since I was last on camera talking about this is to say that I'm definitely giving it a second chance. I'm keeping it. I'm going to keep playing with it. I don't know. I kind of came around through a combination of applying it, playing with it, and seeing the way that it actually looked when it was applied in various different ways on my eyes. Okay, that's Lisa. Let's talk about palettes. Let's talk about the palettes. I know that's what we're all here for. The Gucci palette. So these two palettes, the Gucci palette and the Pat McGrath palette, they've both been a little bit casualties of what I was talking about before, me just reviewing more stuff than I have before, and so testing stuff, and also going through like a really difficult couple of months, particularly the period of time when Sadie was sick, and even before Sadie was sick when Smidge was here and caring for a little tiny kitten. Everything was just topsy-turvy. So I just haven't been wearing eyeshadow as much as I usually do. And when I have been wearing it, I've often been testing stuff, like new stuff. That said, it has been such a pleasure and a joy to reach for this palette whenever I've been doing something like totally separate, off camera. I think I've worn this every time I've gone out to anything, like to dinner, to meet someone for lunch, because I really enjoy it as a one and done color eyeshadow palette. I have worn especially this shade all over the lids, this shade all over the lids, even the red shade all over the lid, even the blue I've put all over my lid, and like not for YouTube or anything, but once for makeup playtime and once just like to wear around. I can't remember if I theorized that this would be the case when I filmed the video or if this was something that I wrote in like the comment. I think it was something I wrote in the long comment that I pinned on that video. It was pretty shortly after I started testing it that I realized that I was probably going to end up only using one or maybe at most two shadows at a time when I dipped into this, rather than using a bunch of different shadows to build a complex eye look like the one that I have on today. And not only is that what I have been doing, but I've loved it like that. Like I've just loved using it. And now that I've decluttered my space, I've been keeping it on my vanity. It's there looking at me all the time. I'm looking at it and we love each other. I think that if I had had a different the past couple of months, I would have used it even more. But I feel like I can extrapolate from how much I used it and what I used it for to say that it is turning out to be a special little presence in my makeup collection, just as I thought it would be. I feel like the formula it's not like super great shakes because it doesn't have that like intense and manipulable pigment. Manipulable? Is that a word? Like pigment that's easy to manipulate, that I can do whatever I want with it. It's a little bit lower key, and it's sort of just like you can do the thing with it, the one thing. Put it all over the lids, blend it out. It does blend beautifully, but it doesn't punch in the way that, for example, Pat McGrath eyeshadows do, or other eyeshadows that are more geared towards makeup artists or people who enjoy makeup artistry. But it's almost like I like it for that, the Gucci palette. I like it for the simplicity of what it offers, because it offers that simplicity, but in all of these different beautiful colors and in this incredibly luxurious packaging. I'm still here for it. Not that much has changed. The Pat McGrath palette, also, I just wish I had more time to play with it over these past couple of months, because every time I've wanted to do a strong look, anything punchy, dramatic, smoky, I've reached for it and I've absolutely loved it. It's what I have in my eyes today. I also use the Victoria Beckham eyeliner in bronze, which I've like really fallen hardcore for, and I think that they look amazing together. I just have to have a moment, okay? This might be like my favorite eye look of all time. And if you know my taste and you watch a lot of my videos, you'll understand, even though it seems kind of simple, you'll understand what I'm talking about. This is like the eye look to end all eye looks for me. I feel like it does have dimension. It's nuanced. Like there's sort of a warm area, there's sort of a cool area, there's a sparkly area, but it's so murky. It's so grungy and earthy. And it also has kind of a glamour aspect to it. And I resisted the temptation to put the shiny, super wet, shiny, sparkly everywhere, all over the place, that makes it just like wet, wet, wet from here to here. I just put it on the center of the lid. So it has this kind of control that my eye looks don't always have, that I feel like makes it more glamorous and also kind of more wearable. I just love this, at least right now. I'm feeling like this is like the only eye look I'll ever need, kind of. And I created it using this palette. So I feel like that should tell you everything about my relationship with this. I haven't yet gotten to play with doing a bunch of like wet, shiny, watercolory special shades stuff on my lids. When I was filming my overhead video about wet look eyeshadows, I put some water in some of these shadows and it was just amazing. Like they painted like liquid metal. I still can't wait to do that during makeup playtime, and I just haven't had the chance. I mean, I could film it. Some of you wanted me to film it, like film myself playing with that technique on my eyes. So we'll see. Maybe I'll figure out a way to film that in the coming days. Needless to say, I still feel the way I felt then in terms of what it provides formula-wise and color story-wise. It's a little prickly, like a little hard for me to get into in some ways, but then what it does deliver, especially in terms of the neutral color story, it's so satisfying for me, and I really love working with it. All the stuff we've talked about so far is stuff, with the exception of the Gucci palette, which Joe bought for me as a gift. Everything else, it's all stuff that my channel bought specifically for a review. Now we're moving into some things that were given to me as gifts. Some because it was PR from the brands, but this first one wasn't actually PR. It was a gift from my friend Lauren of the YouTube channel with 100,000 subscribers. Yay! Lauren May Beauty. She sent this to me as a gift. It's the Neo Nude Melting Color Balm from Armani. And yeah, I love it. I love it as much as I ever have. I don't quite remember if I gave this like a dedicated review at any point or if I've just mentioned it in passing a bunch of times, but nothing has changed. I continue to use it. I love it the most on the cheeks. I've used a ton of it, mostly because I usually go in with a brush, and a brush tends to pick up a lot of product like this. It's sort of a putty, but it's very soft. So the brush picks up a lot, and then I like drape with it, and I'm really going through it. I absolutely love it. It's become my default blush pretty much. When I just don't know what else to put on my cheeks, I love it because it's got this grounded like maturity or sophistication. Like it doesn't feel like candy, like baby, bright cheeks. And so much blush looks that way on me because I'm so pale. Even blushes that don't look like super bright in the pan will often end up looking really bright on me. So it's really nice to have a neutral brown blush like this that I can put on to darken my cheeks a bit, but without making them super bright or colorful. Curewise, a brand that I've always loved and that I've been purchasing products from for a really long time, since like way before my YouTube channel. since I lived in Portland, like years and years before. I mean, it's been probably, I think I actually did the math. I think I was purchasing from Curewise like since a year after their launch, which might have been in 2008 or 2009 or something like that. So I have like a long history with this brand. It was amazing to get a little bit of PR from them. I've talked about the blush a number of times recently, so I'm not going to go into it. I love it. It's incredibly creamy, and I'll repeat what I've said a number of times, which is that the creaminess and fluffiness and sort of whipped almost feeling of this blush amazed me, because the other two Curewise cheek products that I have right now don't feel like this and never have. And I think that that's because I got them from a brick and mortar store. I got them from a Credo. Does Credo Beauty have brick and mortar stores? I think that that's where I got this, a Credo Beauty in LA. And when not this, but the other ones that I have, I remember I went in and I was like trying to get a blush, and I told them which colors I wanted. And I remember the sales associates like digging through the drawers, all of these refills of Curewise cheeks that did feel like they'd been in there for like 5 years. Like it seemed like they'd had this like stock of Curewise refills for a long time. And they were like searching and searching, and they finally found the two colors that I wanted. And then I got them home and they were just sort of stiff. And I was like, oh, maybe I was wrong about how much I love the formula. But then I got this one fresh from Curewise, like fresh from the factory, and it's unbelievably dreamy. So I've been enjoying using this so much that I'm kind of tempted to buy a couple of refills directly from Curewise. Like there are a couple that I have my eye on: Desired Glow, Precious, Embrace. There's a new one called Inner Glow. That's like a very, very pale and slightly glossy one. The formula has really seduced me of this blush. And then the lipsticks, I still really love. I was super wowed by the colors. I showed these in a trying new makeup video where I did this very sleek, colorful look that I really loved. When I look back over the past several months, that's like one of my favorite looks that I've done on YouTube, if not my favorite. The pigment is so wonderful, like the painterly feeling of the lipsticks, and I love the shades of red, these two reds. The lighter or brighter one there is Confidence, and the more kind of muted corally one is Euphoria. And you can see why I love these colors. Since I've realized that I have an olive undertone, and I've been doing some reading about what colors work the best with an olive undertone, I've realized that these like slightly corally reds are really working for me. I mean, it's what I'm wearing on my body as well today. But I'm realizing why this color family is like really working for me. I will say that since the first time I applied and talked about this lipstick on camera, I've realized that they aren't quite as long lasting as some lipsticks that are really densely pigmented like these. I love the creaminess of the pigment, but I feel like I forfeit a little bit of longevity with them. And sometimes when I apply a really thick, really dramatic layer of one of these lipsticks and I end up with this like super bold, creamy, stamped on lip, if I then go through my day cavalierly eating and drinking and doing all sorts of things and not paying attention, it'll wear off from my lips and be a little bit like faded on the inside and still strong on the outside, which some lipsticks that are really, really pigmented, they don't do that because the product wears away, but the pigment like stays as dense as it ever was. I think that the creaminess of these means that it's something you might want to check up on or consider going to reapply, say if you were wearing it like at an event where you're walking around eating and drinking. Ooh, next on the list, let's talk about the new Glow Lust. It's so good. The color, it's like everything I've ever dreamed. When did I talk about this? It wasn't that long ago. It was in a video called Trying Weird and Interesting Makeup 12 days ago or so my screen says right now as I'm filming. It'll probably have been about 2 weeks ago when you're watching this. I was really, really excited by how light and neutral the shade is. I think in that video I applied it by itself and then I went on top of it with my concealer, but pretty much every day since then what I've been doing is like a half pump or quarter pump of this on the back of my hand, and then a smear of the Rose Ink concealer next to it. Mix them together, apply with a brush, and that's my base. That's the base that I'm wearing today. It's what I'm wearing in all my videos. That's now what I use for foundation. This mixed with the concealer, that's like a perfect match for me, which is also like a creamy, dewy thing. And I couldn't be happier. The holiday, what are they called? Smoke Reflex from Auric. I haven't gotten to play with very much. I have though been using the topper from Entice. Is that the green one? The topper is that like like really, really flaky reflective thing. I have been using that as like a brow bone highlight and to blend and stuff, just as I anticipated that I would. But I don't think enough time has passed since I first talked about those for me to really know how my relationship with them is going to develop over time. But Glow Lust, I knew immediately. And I've used it literally every day since I originally filmed with it. So I'm happy to be able to give you that update. Lastly, let's touch briefly on Chantecaille. Although I feel like the mascara, I've been wearing it a lot because I'm really trying to get to know it because it's this wild thing. It's like a $75 mascara. I think the reason it costs that much is because it's supposed to also be lash enhancing. But not enough time has passed for me to be able to say, oh yeah, my lashes are growing like weeds since I started using it. You know what I mean? It's not like I'm seeing like dramatic lash growth, lashes out to here. I don't know if I'm observant enough to be able to know that, unless the difference is really dramatic. Like in 2 months after I've been using this every day, maybe my lashes will be really thick and I'll be like, oh yeah, my lashes look way better than they did before. Maybe. It hasn't been enough time for that to happen, or if it has been, it hasn't happened. But I really like the mascara. I feel like it's a good, the other one that I have going right now is e.l.f. Big Mood, which is like so thick and gunky and pumped up, and it makes my lashes really chunky and spidery and velvety, and I love it. But I've been using this more because it does provide significant lengthening, but it's a little more toned down. It's not quite toned down to the point where I would call it a wispy lash. It's not really a wispy lash. It's like a more natural version of an extremely pumped up, girthy, lengthened lash. And that's just working for me. It's a really, really good like median. And I'm glad that I have it as an alternative to the e.l.f. one, because some days it's just too much, the e.l.f. one, especially if I'm not wearing much eyeshadow, or sometimes I wear mascara without any eyeshadow. And on those days, for me right now with what I want, I prefer the Chantecaille. And the last thing that I have on my list to discuss is the Chantecaille lip gloss, because I know that I've talked about that. I talked about it in the video about makeup that's been delighting me lately. And it has been delighting me, but I don't know where it is, because I think that I put it in a purse when I went out one day, because I've been so delighted by it that it's one of the ones that I've been like, where is that? I've constantly like, where's the Chantecaille gloss? Like putting it on all the time. When I went to film this video, I couldn't find it. If I had done like a very thorough long search, I'm sure that it would have turned up, but I didn't. And so I don't have it. And that's my review. I like it so much that it's so deeply in rotation that it's in one of my bags somewhere waiting for me to discover it the next time I'm carrying that bag. Maybe what I can say about the two Chantecaille products is that I still like them. I'm still into them, but I think we're probably gonna have to wait a couple months for like real results, real final word reviews for those two products. And that's it. I just included them here because they're conspicuously some luxury products that I've talked about recently. And that's it. That is it. That's me revisiting my reviews of these luxury products. Looking over the list, nothing scandalous, right? I mean, there are a couple that I've decluttered. There's one that I've been afraid to use again, the Surratt thing, the Surratt like eye baton. There's one that I've used every day. There's one that I've almost used up. It's been a real spectrum of experience when it comes to my reviews of luxury makeup recently. And what a pleasure and what a joy to be able to test out these products and report back to you about them. Are there other luxury brands or specific items, specific pieces of luxury makeup that you would particularly love to see me review? I would like to know. I definitely am not going to turn this into some kind of luxury beauty review channel, but it has been interesting to start to tiptoe into it, to start to get to know some of these brands and to be able to talk about what it's actually like to touch and use the formulas, some of these like iconic products and iconic formulas that I've always been curious about. So if there's something else that you would like to see, let me know. That budget for self-sponsored review is kind of burning a hole in my pocket this month. I'll look for your suggestions in the comments down below. I appreciate you as always so much for being here. And I want you to remember to take extra good care of yourself today so that you can be the most effective version of yourself as you do your work in the world.